I wanted to pick. Hello, friends. Welcome to another Conscious Observer Live. Got my lovely co-host Sarah Crowder here with me.
Hello.
There she is.
Here I am.
How's everyone doing today?
Oh,
let's turn down our sound here. Okay. We got all of our bugs worked out, guys. We have 2 microphones. We have a camera. We have 2 chairs. We have lights and action. We got it all. So everything, it's all coming together. This is what
ready to rock and roll, friends.
Week like 7 or something, and we finally got our poop in a group. So see all of our friends filling in now. So thank you for spending your Saturday night with us. We're going to be talking about reincarnation tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. People really like this week's episodes, and we got a lot of things to talk about. A lot of great questions from people. And Sarah here has a bunch of amazing, she's like it's like this week was made for her, because
that's definitely one of my favorite topics.
Yeah, I think it's probably both of our favorite topics, but you're like professionally trained in this. I'm just a curious guy, but you do this for a living, right?
One of the many things.
Yeah. So why don't you tell the folks what you do?
What I do.
What do you do?
So I am a past life regressionist. I take people to past life through hypnosis. I allow them to access the past lives that are most important to what is going on in your current life. And typically there's like some sort of parallel that will help you to better understand what's happening in your current life. And then you get to go and access your higher self and get some words of wisdom, ask those big questions, and get those answers.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So she does it here at the house. We have a space that we're opening right now. She has an office. We're just up there today, setting up her office that she's sharing with her homegirl, Kathy. And they're going to be doing this awesome stuff there. But she does it in the house. And it's so cool because like people come over and like Sarah takes them through this whole thing. It's like a multiple hour process. And then afterwards, I get to kind of, come in and like find out all the stuff. And it's crazy because I get to see the people, and the people are like blown away, like because so many people come over, they're not expecting this. They're just like regular people, and they're just like, okay, I'm kind of interested in this, or I have a calling to do it or whatever, but they don't really expect what happens to happen. And it's like all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, like they'll be shell shocked. They'll come in, they'll be like,
oh yeah,
so I was an alien and I was whatever, and like it's not always alien stuff, but like they'll have like, but I mean, a decent amount of them do have kind of a non-human life, which is pretty amazing. Not just aliens, but like fairies and spirits and light beings and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. But most of them are human lives on Earth, but not all of them. But it's really neat because I get to see the people right after the fact and just see their emotion, like right out of the gates, just like this realization, like, holy crap, that was crazy,
And even people that are like totally like believers and into it and like fascinated by, once they're like, when you have a past life regression and you step into that past life, it's emotional. It's like seeing a friend that you haven't seen that like passed away or something, you know what I mean? Or that you haven't seen in 25 years. It's an emotional thing because you actually like miss and can like identify with that life.
You remember.
You 100% remember, and it's so vivid, and it's almost like you don't want to let it go when you're in it. It's
like when you're having a good dream and you don't want to wake up, and you wake up and you're like, crap, I got to get out of bed and go do stuff. I just want to go back into that dream. That dream was wild.
Yeah.
But to know it was an entire life instead of just a dream, that was a whole life, Yeah, it's so fascinating. So we're going to get into all that fun stuff today. And I see from the comments, a lot of you guys are fans of QHHT or have done it, or maybe even are practitioners yourself. And QHHT is just one of the modalities, one of the ways to do it. Sarah kind of has her own. She is trained. Yeah, she's trained with QHHT, and she actually mentored under Sarah Bressman Cosme for a long time. And we've gone to like multiple retreats and workshops and done all the things. So she's very, very well versed and trained in the QHHT world. But she actually has like a kind of hybrid version, because she continued to refine it and to work on it, and kind of has her own variation of it, I guess I'd say, and it's incredibly effective. So.
Yes. And yes, Rebecca, that is very typical to cry, because it's that just like emotional bond to it. You can like feel it.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into all this stuff, guys. So now that we have some more people,
I'll tell some stories from some of my favorite client experiences.
Yep, Sarah's going to share some stories and tell us some of her past lives, because it's not, so just so y'all know, because she's actually going to work on, she's working on a I don't know what you want to call it. It's kind of like a do-it-yourself past life regression, right? It's a guided hypnosis type thing, because you can do this on your own. Like, you don't have to have a QHHT person, even though that's the best way, because they get to kind of guide you and ask questions, and it's a professional and all that kind of stuff. But the cool thing is like, you've done this to yourself. Like, you take yourself on your own past life regressions, and you've been able to go to your own past lives multiple times, like, and revisit the same past life, to kind of like, because you can't get it all in one go. You know, you only get like snippets, and so you can kind of go back to the same past life and continue. Okay, let's pick up where we left off. It's like an investigator trying to figure out what happened.
Well, and that's what like I found with repeat clients is sometimes, not always, but sometimes, like if there's a message that like I said, the past lives that you're presented have something to do with what you're experiencing now. So if you did not receive the message fully, or if there is more that needs to be revealed, that life, you will slip back into that life again.
Yeah, because I mean, you've had, most people, I would think, or it's kind of proven, have had many, many past lives.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's funny, because when you do past life regression, almost always you go to the one that seems to be the most, it's not just random, like, oh, I mean, sometimes it is, but a lot of times you go to a meaningful past life, and you go to a meaningful moment in that past life. Like, there's a reason why your higher self is directing you to that specific past life.
Yes. And like, a lot of times you'll have shared lives with the same people that you're in this life with, and it'll explain, like, maybe if you like have like you can't figure out why you're like angry at this person all the time, but like it's something that's actually residual from a past life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or that like this person's doing the same thing to you in this life, or maybe they were your spouse in the last life and now they are again, or your kid was your mom, or I mean,
there's literally stories of like people who were like literally killed by somebody in a past life, and now they're like a spouse or something, and you're like, why do I resent this person? And it's like, oh, this is why. And it's like, okay, so yeah, we do carry over, even though you do get the like mind wipe kind of the amnesia when you come into this life, there is some residue, there's some carryover.
100%.
And Ronald said, thanks for your book recommendations in the video, Jordan. I got both of them and finished Journeys of the Soul and started Destiny of Souls.
Great.
So what Ronald's talking about is Dr. Michael Newton wrote 2 books. They're probably the 2 best books. I mean, there's so many good ones, but probably the 2 best books about reincarnation, because they're so detailed and they're so fascinating. And Dr. Michael Newton is a very well-respected doctor and clinical hypnotherapist and psychologist. And he spent 40 years researching this, had 7,500 case studies. So anyways, those books, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Ronald. And the next one, the second one, is, I wouldn't say it's better, because the first one is one of the best books ever written, but the second one goes deep. Like it goes into more of the, I don't even know what you want to call it, the beings and the people that are kind of running this reality, the people above humans. And it's endlessly fascinating.
I found that one to be so fascinating, because I did that regression to the LDL, or the life between lives, and had my whole experience. And then I read that book, and it lined up exactly with what all the other people described, but I didn't know anything about it beforehand. So that was super fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, dust to divine. So many kids now saying they remember the womb. So kids, like anybody out there listening, anyone who has like a child who's under 5 years old, pay attention to what they say. Like, I know kids say a bunch of wacky things, but it's proven, like, these people that study children, like children's psychologists and psychiatrists, they they're starting to realize that these kids that say these things, these kids that have imaginary friends, and we'll get into what that is, kids that remember, like, say a kid, like, say you're a mom and a kid says, oh, I want my real mom, you're not my real mom. And that mom's going to be devastated. Like, oh my God, why does my kid say this? Up to a certain age, the kids have this like overlap between their last life and this life. And they're still remembering their previous life. And it is confusing for them. So there's a lot of times where children remember being in the womb, remember their previous parents, remember all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it's really wild when kids say these things that we used to just dismiss. It's like, start paying attention to that stuff. I wish I would have known this stuff. We have 2 kids, and I wasn't thinking this way when our kids were young. I would have been asking them all sorts of questions, had I been thinking this way. Right. So
well, and I remember like some things that both of our kids said.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh, that was definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Now looking back, I mean, both of our kids have seen ghosts. Described.
Still do.
Not just seen ghosts. Not like, oh my God, I saw a ghost. Like had like ongoing like I don't even know what you'd call it. Like a friendship in the way, a relationship in the way you would with like a roommate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the ghosts like share space. They're like, yeah, there's a ghost over there in that room. This is their name. We kind of leave them alone, but they know about the ghost. They know the personality of the ghost. They even like, it's like how you would describe like your roommate or something, like, oh, they're kind of cranky, just leave them alone. To the point where in this house we're in now, both of our children upstairs have both seen the same ghost. And you saw, we can't guarantee what you saw, but it seemed ghostly, but they've actually seen this ghost that lives in our house. In our old house in Texas, we had like our youngest, had some things that she told me later on that she saw in that house, where she saw a ghost in that house as well.
I remember.
So, but they say these things and like, it's easy to dismiss it and say, I mean, even as an adult, like we have vivid imaginations and sometimes we think we see something and we don't. But like with kids, especially, it's like, man, pay attention to what they're saying, because they're tuned in, like they're tapped in, like, especially at a young age, because they haven't fully shed their previous life. They're kind of still in between until you get to about 5 or 6. And then it kind of, it starts to fade. Yeah.
Pretty quickly too. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, but actually it's probably a good thing, because it would be very confusing. It would be really hard to focus on this life if you remembered imagine remembering all your past lives, because people always say that. They'll say, if we're supposed to learn, why wouldn't it be easier if we remember the past lives? And it's like, well, I think it would just be insane at a certain point. Like you wouldn't be able to, like, there's that guy Mateus de Stefano.
I was just thinking.
And he's awesome, and he talks about that when he was a kid, especially. He remembered every single life he ever had at the same time, and he said it was complete bonkers. Like it like was a curse. It was not a good thing. And now that he's older, he's been able to control it. But as a kid, he said it was really weird and made it really hard to live a normal life. So there's a reason for it. So let's go real quick. We'll do a speed run through the 2 episodes from this week, and keep the questions and comments and everything coming in, guys. I appreciate it. And we'll get to a little Q&A at the end here. So we talked in the first episode, which was just kind of this overview of reincarnation as I see it, right? Based on, some of the greats, not just my opinion. My opinion is based on these people that have been researching this for eons and eons. My fascination into it actually started with Dolores Cannon. And so I know she's not considered this quote unquote credible source, because she's not like a doctor or anything, but I mean, she's what started all this. Like she has some of the most reincarnation evidence and testimonies and case studies, and written so many books. And I mean, she's so influential, and she's just as good and credible as anybody out there, but she doesn't have that PhD in front of her name. She didn't work for a prestigious college or anything. But man, Dolores Cannon, she was amazing. And she did some serious work, and she was doing all this before it was kind of acceptable. Now you can sort of talk about this stuff. Back then you really couldn't. And that's why she had to self-publish all of her books, and she, funded all of her own like speaking tours and all that kind of stuff, because she was ahead of the curve.
She even started her own publishing company so that she could get her books published. Yeah.
And she really laid the groundwork for a lot of other people. So Dolores Cannon has some great stuff out there. What was cool about her is she did hypnotherapy to help people essentially like lose weight and heal and stop smoking and that kind of stuff. And in an effort to like really get them in this deeper state, because she was like, I really want to get, she's like, the people do the best work, the best healing, and they can quit smoking and all this stuff when they're in this deep trance state. So she started refining her method, and she was like, let's get them deeper. And then when she kept getting them deeper, they kept slipping into like these past lives. And that wasn't the intention. She's like, all of a sudden they're in another lifetime. She's like, whoa, this is wild. So she kind of stumbled upon this. And actually all these people, Dr. Michael Newton and Ian Stevenson, and all these people that are like the experts in this field, like stumbled into it. They didn't like set out to say, I'm going to study past life regressions or incarnation or anything. You stumble into it. Like Ian Stevenson, who's probably the most famous, incredible person in the whole field, he was just a child psychiatrist. And these children kept coming into his office and basically were telling him, in my past life, I was so-and-so, admiral in the Navy, and this is the ship I was on, and this guy, killed me, and this was my captain's name, and all this information. They're like, hold on. So then the parents would be like, yeah, that's why I brought him here. Like, I don't know what's going on. Then they would go and they would research all this, and they would find the people. They would I think he said he had 1,500 cases of confirmed, Ian Stevenson, confirmed past lives, meaning like children and people that came into his office, and they were able to then afterwards take all that information and go and confirm it, like go and find and prove these past lives. 1,500.
Yeah. There's a show on, I don't know if it's still on, but I think it's called like The Ghost Inside My Child or something like that. And it's a whole series that's all that it is like these kids that actually remember so many details that they're able to go and like find the family members, find the homes, find the gravestones, and the kids are able to tell them like a lot of details. Like it's pretty like mind-blowing.
It's crazy. And I on my Patreon, I put if y'all subscribe to my Patreon, it's just $5, and I put a bunch of stuff on there for each episode that I can't share like in the episode because it's just me walking around the forest. So I put like the photos and stuff. So in the last one, I included a bunch of these case study photos from Ian Stevenson showing not just, so I'll tell you about, there's something called death marks, and this is crazy fascinating. So he discovered this because he started, when he had these people that were remembering past lives, and they'd go back and they'd find the past lives, a lot of times there was some sort of a traumatic ending. Unfortunately, a lot of our lives, we're known to go out pretty dramatically. And so sometimes these people would go out dramatically, like meaning like someone else would kill them, or they were like, I don't know, something dramatic happened or whatever. And there would be ways to find it. Either it'd be in the news, or there'd be police reports or autopsy reports or any of these things, right? So they were able to like verify some of the stuff. And what they verified is that a lot of the people that would tell him how their last life ended, they would be able to, like, say, for example, like, I'll just use an example. This one guy, like, pew-pewed himself, and they were able to find the autopsy report that showed this like little stick drawing thing from the guy who did the thing, and it showed where the entry wound and exit wound were, right? So on the current guy that was remembering this stuff, he was like, okay, I have this report, and he didn't show the guy or anything. He was like, they knew about this one scar because he had this like scar mark thing here, but then there was this other exit wound out the top. So he was like, do you have any other like weird scars or marks or anything on your body? And he was like, took off his hat, and he's like, yeah, here. He showed him on top of his head, and he had this part where like the hair doesn't grow. And it wasn't like a scar, it was just this weird like birthmark on his head where the hair didn't grow. And it was in the exact place that the exit wound on the autopsy report showed from his previous life, right? Exact place. I mean, so crazy. So what, and there's so many of these on my Patreon. There's actually pictures of, and it's not graphic, but they are like medical deformities, right? So I put a little disclaimer on there, because there's literally people that like were born, it makes you look at deformities totally different. There's people that were literally born without legs. Like there was this one girl born without legs, like around her knee, and in a previous life, both of her legs were chopped off in an accident, right? And the trauma was so intense that whenever she was reborn in the next life, her legs didn't grow past that point. There's like this, so they call them death marks, and it's like a mark on your current body where you died in the previous life, right? And it's just this like, it's like a energetic signature that just carries over.
Dolores had like stories that she had that experience where people would come in with, like, she had one lady who came in with like a red mark around her neck, and it actually healed after she acknowledged
Mhm.
that she had been hung in a past life, and
Yeah.
then like it was able to be released.
Ian Stevenson talks about that in the book, that they fade throughout time, throughout life anyways, even if the people don't rise, because they were able to confirm that so many of these people's birthmarks and these scars and these things like that were worse as children, like more prominent and stuff through photos and everything. But also once they realize this, like once they go through his therapies and stuff, and they realize that this thing, because like this one guy had this like braided looking scar around his neck, and he was hung in a previous life.
Yeah.
And once he found out that, it started fading away.
Yeah.
Just like the memories do, the actual marks fade away too.
That's what Dolores had experienced as well.
Yeah, and just so y'all know, like QHHT literally means quantum healing hypnosis therapy technique. So it's, even though you're going past life regression, the primary purpose of it was always for healing.
Yes.
Because what people, or the idea behind it is, that's a lot of our current traumas, phobias, diseases, ailments, that kind of stuff, actually stem from
leftover trauma.
Yeah, some in that past life. And if you go back to the source, you can release it at the source, and then you'll be able to heal in this current life. Now, it doesn't mean every single thing you're dealing with in this life is from a past life. It just means that, like, if you have something that's been kind of hounding you your whole life and it doesn't make sense, like a lot of people have mysterious like phobias and stuff. Like people will be like, I'm terrified of water. And they're like, why? And it's like you find out in a past life that you drowned, traumatically or something, right?
I found out in a past life that I drowned.
It's a common one.
Like, I don't have a problem with water. Obviously, I love water. I just need it to be to where I can touch the bottom. Like, I have a great fear, like I don't like to go out past a certain depth, even on paddleboard and stuff, I have no interest in going on a cruise at all, or a boat. No, thank you. We are good.
Well, I mean, this comes from, and this, we're just going to take a detour real quick to Bananas Land. You were a mermaid in a past life, weren't you? Yeah.
As well.
So here's a crazy little caveat. So I have past lives I have dreams all the time of my past lives, and so many of them, the only way I can explain it is in Atlantis. I mean, it like, I've always felt this even before I even, like, that's why I explore Atlantis so vigorously now. Like, I'm very drawn to it. But I've always had this connection to Atlantis, and my dreams just felt like they're in Atlantis. Like, you know what I mean? It didn't feel like I was in California or something. Like, it felt like I was in Atlantis. And then you had this past life where you were, I mean, tell them, but we were both there, right? And we were in some sort of a club or something or other. And you were, what were you?
I was a mermaid, but I was like on display, essentially. I was like an act, and you were a bartender.
In all of my dreams of my past life in Atlantis, I'm a bartender. In almost every single one. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
And so we evidently shared a past life in Atlantis, and we were together, but in a weird way. And didn't we have to we escaped? Yeah. And wild stuff like that, guys. But it's like,
but it also like ties back. So when I did my life between lives, that was right before this life, coming into this life, I remember I was so excited to come into this life because I knew that I was getting to go back with you. So I had the list of like 5 things that I was going to do. And the only thing that I could see was the middle list, the number 3, and it was find Jordan. And like, I remember from a very young age, I was born in Wichita, Kansas. But like, I didn't know, I had like, my parents didn't watch the show Dallas. I don't know why, but like from a very young age, I always was like, I'm going to go to Dallas. I'm going to go to Dallas. And that's where you were born. And then as soon as I got there and I found you, I was like, we can get out of here now.
Yeah.
Can we go to the beach?
It was wild. Yeah. So you found me, and our life was very up and down, and we always felt like we needed to leave there. And then unfortunately my mom passed away, and she was like the anchor. She was the only reason I was still in Texas. And as soon as she passed away, we moved to Florida. And the crazy thing is, we didn't know anybody here. We had no friends, no job, no money. We had no connections. We had no anything, right? We had just vacationed here a couple times, and we moved across the country, and we moved to Florida. And then years later, I find out that a lot of people that have ties to Atlantis moved to Florida.
Yeah.
Like there's this strong
But it
pull.
wasn't like, it wasn't even there was no denying it. Like we came here and we were like, okay, we'll move there whenever our oldest graduates from high school. And then your mom passed away and like some crazy stuff happened. And we were like, dude, like tomorrow is not guaranteed. We need to go now. And like, I mean, remember, like our oldest was on vacation with her grandparents, and we were like, hey, whenever you get back to Dallas, you'll need to put her on a plane to Florida because we moved to Florida while y'all were on vacation.
She went up to Alaska and we literally packed up her room and we moved, and I was like, okay, she's gonna be pissed. So we made her new room here like really cool. Remember, we moved into our new house here, and like we spent all the time, like the house was just, we were still sleeping on like mattresses on the floor, but her room was like pimped out. Like we put these like big wall decals all over it and made it look like a forest. Remember? And like
she is a fairy.
Yeah. And so anyway, so when she came, like her room was badass, and
yes,
and now she's,
it was crazy.
And now she's like totally happy here. She's so happy, but it was funny because we were just like, we got to go.
Well, I mean, she met her love. She's married to her
happily
true,
married,
soulmate. And I really believe that. Okay, you want to talk about birthmarks? I don't think that they're just death marks. I also think that they're clues to past lives and stuff. And our oldest, has always had this very prominent birthmark on her leg. And
it is very distinct.
It is so
very distinct.
And I was looking at
it. She's a ginger, so she's very fair skin, and this birthmark is it's so crystal clear and big.
But it's in the shape of a leaf, but it's not your typical leaf. It's actually, I believe it's an American. You found the exact leaf. Yeah. It's an American elm leaf. And like, if you've ever seen one of those, and I'll give a picture of it to Jordan so he can put it on the Patreon, but like it's crooked on one side, like the bottom of it starts higher on one side than the other. So whenever you see it and you see her birthmark, like there's no denying that that's exactly what it is. And this child literally spends her money going and buying all of the like 90% off plants from Home Depot and Lowe's and bringing them home and bringing them all back to life. Like I can't do it, but she sure as crap can't do it. Is magic.
I kill perfectly healthy plants, and she somehow like revives plants that are damn near dead. Like
she when she lived with us as a teenager, she had the black lights for her plants, but we were like, people are going to think that you're growing something else.
She had, like her whole bathroom, her room was upstairs, and I'd go up there and like she would have she put like vines and ivy and stuff in her bathroom, and she would have like vines growing all around her bathroom and stuff, and it's just like, who does this? And this is when she was in high school.
But she's a little fairy. She is 100% fairy. She was born on April 21st, the day before Earth Day, and I induced her, and she was meant to be born on the 22nd. And I mean, 100% my little fairy child.
Yeah, and her birthmark definitely represents that. Yeah. So it's fun. There's all sorts of clues that it's like our higher self and our past lives are leaving us, it seems.
100%.
Yeah. So we talked about so Dr. Ian Stevenson, he did 40 years worth of hardcore clinical scientific work on past lives. And I mean, they proved with beyond a shadow of a doubt, like if anybody out there is a skeptic, read Dr. Ian Stevenson's books. And especially if you're like a scientific analytical minded person, I mean, he took so much painstaking detail in these studies. They went and tracked down so many things to prove things. This is before AI and really the internet and stuff. This is 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. And they traveled all around the world. They spent so much time, and effort on this. And so their stories are just amazing, and taking translators all over the world, going into a lot of these small towns and villages, because a lot of these, like in the West where we live, people don't talk about this stuff. But in the East, like in a lot of these villages, especially in India and Pakistan and that whole area, it's very common. They talk about this stuff. There's actually a practice that they do, forget exactly what it's called, where whenever somebody passes away, they will mark the body with a ash X and a mark on the body. And then when the next body reincarnates, it will have a birthmark in that exact place where they put the X, and that's how they know the next person is that person.
Oh wow.
And yeah, it's really wild, and it's like this practice that they do over there. That's how much they believe. So people in America will be like, reincarnation is not real, bro. And it's like, well, we're new. You got to think, America is so new. We're the young dumb people. We're like the little teenagers, right? The rest of the world's been around for a very, 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 very long time. And for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, all the oldest religions and all the oldest cultures not only believe in reincarnation, it's like a very, very important integral part of their cultures. And we're like the new guys. We're all new, and we're just like, that's not real, bro. And you got to think, okay, why do we say that? We say that because the churches, especially in the government, don't want us to believe reincarnation is real because it takes power away from them. Because if people knew that you live, your soul's eternal, right? Your soul's eternal, and that you have a connection to your higher self, and you have a connection to source, and that all of your connection to the higher spirit is inside you, and that, after this life, you get another go, and after this life, you keep on going, then all of a sudden, like, you have the power, you have the authority, and and I think that's really important for people to realize. So it's reincarnation is widely accepted around the entire world, widely accepted in most places outside of the modern Western world. Okay. So this is not even weird stuff. In most of the world, what we're talking about here, they're like, well, yeah, duh. You know what I mean? They'll be like, my kid was my grandpa. Like, I know this, right?
Yeah.
Like this isn't weird. It's only weird here. Right. So we're trying to make it unweird. But yeah, they have these practices over there where they literally mark bodies, and then they'll look for the next one that matches and stuff.
That's
and
fascinating.
yeah, and I was just learning about something today. There's something called announcement dreams, and this is so wild. So in Dr. Ian Stevenson's research, so he had 1,500 confirmed case studies, where that means that they took what the kid or the person said, and they went and tracked it down and confirmed the past life, matched all the data and stuff. Because sometimes they'll be like, my name was such and such, and I lived in this town, and I had this job, and I was married to this person, and they'll just track it down.
Where they remember their address.
Yeah,
like literally.
And so out of the 1,500, they said that 22% of the 1,500 confirmed ones had something called an announcement dream. So that's a pretty big. I mean, that's almost a quarter.
Yeah.
And what this announcement dream is that the person who gave birth, so the mom who gave birth to the kid, had some sort of a dream or vision or premonition of that child, but not in child form, but in adult form. So here's an example to make it make sense. This one lady, for example, has this dream, and in the dream, this grown woman, like young woman, but grown, comes up to her and says, I'm on my way. I'm coming. I'll see you soon. Right. And she saw her face, remembered everything about her face, crystal clear. And she was like chills, goosebumps. And she remembered the dream. She's like, I have no idea who this lady is. I've never seen this lady before. And then a few months later, she gets pregnant, and then she has a baby. Right. Okay. The baby just looks like a baby. Okay. All babies look the same. You've seen a baby, right? They're babies. But then this baby grows up into a woman. That woman, she looks at her one day as her child, her daughter starts to kind of turn into an adult. And she's like, holy shit, you're the lady that came to me in my dream and said, I'm coming, I'm on my way. And finds out that it was, I forget the connection, but it was somebody else, like a grandparent or something like that had passed. It was basically telling her, I'm coming, and I'm, what I mean? I'll be there soon. I'll see you soon. But she didn't know what that meant, right? Because dreams are kind of symbolic and kind of fuzzy, and they don't always translate properly. So it's called an announcement dream, where you'll have a dream that you're going to have a baby, and it has some sort of distinct meaning or whatever, and it's literally that spirit that's about to reincarnate alerting you that it's coming. And they said they found that in 22% as they started to investigate these things, and they would interview like family members and that kind of stuff.
So remember, I saw in the comments, there was a couple comments about Suzanne Spooner. We have worked with Suzanne as well, and we went to a retreat with her. And
I interviewed her. On my old podcast, Alive and Kicking, I have an interview with Suzanne Spooner.
Yeah,
she's awesome.
But when we went to that retreat with her, she taught us the
pendulum.
Yes, the pendulum. And I don't know if you remember, but my mom came through And
mine did too.
But my mom came through and said that she was going to come back as
A Rand's kid.
Rand's kid, remember?
Yeah, so
and I was
that's
like,
the same. That's
yes,
what this is.
An announcement, right?
Announcement. Yeah.
Kind of creepy.
Yeah, it is.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's a strange thing to process, but it seems to be how it works. It's like they're just giving you a heads up, you know.
Yeah.
They're not asking for permission. They're like, I'm coming, you know.
And then also I have a client that had Irish twins. If you don't know what that means, it is you have 2 kids within 1 calendar year. So she has Irish twins, but when we did her session, yes, talk, Kathy. When we did her session, it was revealed to her that these are typically twins in every life together, and in this go round, one tried to come without the other, so the other was like, oh no, you're not going Earth side without me, and came as the second Irish twin.
Yeah, so they're almost always twins, but this time she had one baby.
Are always
yeah, so they're always twins, and this time she only had one.
Yes.
But then she got like pregnant almost immediately after, because the other one was like, you know, hey, it's like that. There's that
not leaving me behind.
That meme that you always share. It's like, wait for me, I got little legs. It always reminds me of that. It's like they're like, hey, hold on, I'm coming.
Yeah.
So I mean, Dolores talked about that a lot with the soul family thing, talking about how so not all souls are like this. Like, you get the impression that in the beginning, like, so newer souls that are still kind of learning the ropes and stuff, they haven't quite formed this like tight soul family clique, right? Some people are just star seeds. They're just here and they're going to have a go and then they're out of here. Everyone comes here for different reasons, and then some people are like younger souls and they just haven't quite formed their crew yet. But for like older souls that have been kind of around Earth for a while and you know, been doing this for a bit, you start to
sense that energy too.
Yeah.
You know,
and you start to like form this little group, and you're like, hey, me and these souls, we just jive, we get shit done, you know, we like to do this together, and it's like the system, you know, whatever, allows this, and it's like, okay, y'all work good together, so I'll allow it. And Dr. Michael Newton in his books goes into this, that like, you know, in that life between lives, part of it, you know, after you have your past life review and, you know, you do your R&R and you train and whatever, part of it is you go and you reconvene as your soul group, and you're just like, you know, like everyone's like, hey, it's like a little party, and you kind of, you're like, okay, what are we gonna do next time? You know what I mean? Okay, next time, you know, like in the last one, I was your parent and you were my kid, so this time I'm gonna be your parent, you're gonna be my kid. You know what I mean? And so like yes, we come here to learn and grow and everything, but you get the impression that when souls have been around a long time and they kind of just have the seniority, sometimes they're just having fun. Sometimes they're just like, you know what? I've never been your like boss before. Maybe next life I'm going to be your boss. We'll see how that works. And sometimes you just kind of goofing off. You're kind of come in and have these lifetimes because you're still learning. It's still a learning thing, but you have a little more control. Like, it's like, instead of just being thrust back in, you're like, you get to kind of choose. You're like, you know, I want to be this life. I want to have this experience, and I want you to play this role. And you kind of get together and you plan it out. It's like an acting group, you know, it's like switching roles, you know,
cast of characters.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
I've had like a client that was also like a friend that her daughter, and at the time, I mean, like her daughter was 4 years old, and like they thoroughly believe that the daughter had been her mother in the past life. And like at 4 years old, this child would come and like soothe her mom, would like calm her down, like take her phone out of her hand and set it down and like tell her to lay her head in her lap, and would like brush her hair and stroke her and like calm her mom down. And she was only 4 years old. It was pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah. It's because she was only 4 years old. You know what I mean? Because she's still remembering.
Yeah.
And
she knew.
Yeah. That's so cool. So then, okay, I'm going down my list of the last. We're already covering all this naturally. So, you know, I'll real quick, I'll kind of recap the LBL, which is Michael Newton's term for life between lives. And there is this segment. And so after you pass and you go up to spirit world, and then before your next incarnation, there's this segment of time, which is called the life between lives. And it's really wild because, I mean, I think he had overall, Dr. Michael Newton, and his books, is what we talked about earlier. He's my favorite. I mean, his stuff is just incredible.
It really is.
But he had 7,500 case studies. 7,500 clients. He did this for 40 years. It was professional. He was a clinical hypnotherapist. So he did this as all he did all day, every day. 7,500 past life regression clients that he it's not like someone comes in, does it, and he never sees them again. These are people that he would have like multiple things that they would be drilling down, catalog and everything. He was very careful never to lead people. He took it very seriously. He was a skeptic for most of the time, so it's really wild. But throughout these 7,500 or whatever people, or however many it was, he found all of these crazy similarities and overlaps. And these people came from every background, every culture, religion, age, gender, everything. And the reason he wrote his books is because he was like, this is undeniable now. Like, these people are going to the same place. Like, it's not someone's imagination. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist or a atheist. It doesn't matter. Like, these people, regardless of their belief systems and upbringing, we're going to these places and describing almost the exact same thing. I mean, people use different like terminology and they kind of explain things different and everything, but you know what I mean? You can really tell, because when you do that many people, you can tell.
Oh yeah.
And so some of the things that he was able to decipher is like basically the kind of progression. So say you pass away and your spirit goes up. Not everyone's immediately goes up, but most do, because we've done this a lot of times. But some people get actually very attracted to Earth, or they're addicted to something, or they have trauma. And sometimes they kind of get stuck. Their spirit doesn't, ascend up like it's supposed to. And we call those ghosts. The ghost is just a disembodied spirit that just didn't do the natural, just didn't go up like it's supposed to. And over time, there's different beings and part of its higher self and stuff that'll come down and help it, but they can't force it. So they'll come and they'll try to nudge it. And usually the ghost will snap at them. Okay, we'll come back later. You're not ready. So you're just supposed to be nice to those, and just they'll naturally make their way up. But 99% of people, just go right up, because we've done this before, right? We know the drill. So you go back up, and then one of the first things that happens is you're usually greeted. It's kind of, Tom Campbell talks about it, and he calls it a virtual reality. You're greeted. You go to a place that seems extremely familiar and friendly, so that it softens the blow. And it's not real. Not real in the sense that it's kind of custom tailored for you, but it's just supposed to be the temporary, like, first little phase. Some people get stuck there because it's like cool and it's relaxing. And you would call this heaven. People would call this heaven, because if you're very religious, you'll see religious elements that align to you. A lot of times you're greeted by a family member or something like that that's passed. And then, like, so what Robert Monroe figured out through all this is like, yes, that happens. And then you're supposed to only be there for a little bit. And then another part of your higher self system will come and be like, okay, we got some work to do. You need to come over here. A lot of times you'll just kind of be gently led away, and you'll be led out of this space. But that first space you go to is just a warm, comforting space. And then you get to work. Then usually there's like a past life review. And a lot of times this is in like kind of like an office kind of a setting, or like some sort of almost like a counselor kind of a setting or something. A lot of times there'll be like a desk and a person, a friendly person, and you'll go through a past life review. And it's like, it's not like a judgment, because it's you judging you. So it's not like the pearly gates and stuff. And they're like, thou shalt not enter, you were bad, right? It's literally you judging you. So they'll walk you through things, and they'll be like, okay, this happened. How do you think you handled that? You'll be like, yeah, I didn't do very good there. Sorry. And then what they'll do, sometimes they'll show you what you did from like the people's point of view that you affected, right? So say you did something shitty, they'll be like, okay, this is how it felt to this person. And then you're like, oh, shit, and then that's how you learn and you grow, right? And then they'll also tell you like the good things you do. And a lot of times, like what Dr. Michael Newton found is those good things that people did usually weren't these like big monumental good things they thought, oh, I started a company and I made millions of dollars and I gave people jobs. And they'll be like, yeah, we don't care about that. They'll be like, there was that one time you helped that old lady across the street, and that like changed her life, it like made her day, and she told her friend, it's whatever. They'll be like, that was super good. Like, do more of that stuff. Right. And it's like, oh, but I mean, I did all these other amazing things. And they're like, well, those are more like ego type things. Right. So you thought they were good, but like, that's not what we're here for. So I always thought that part was interesting. Like when they would do the past life review, the parts that they would show them that were like the most, like that got them the most brownie points and stuff, that made like on the other side, that makes the people the happiest. never had anything to do with like how much money you had
Yeah.
or fame or if you were good looking, or like none of that stuff matters at all. It's always the little things, you know.
Like, so this week I celebrated 6 years of sobriety.
Yeah.
Jordan's is coming up in a couple days, but like a good friend of mine, we had this conversation and it was just the words that I needed to hear on that day. And like, it makes me teary-eyed, but every year I send her a message and I'm like, hey, thanks for that conversation. And every year she's like, I don't even really remember. Like, I remember us talking, but I don't remember what I said or anything that should have like sparked this big thing for you. But like, it completely changed the trajectory of our lives.
Yeah.
Just that one conversation, you know.
She doesn't remember.
I mean, she remembers,
Well,
but she doesn't remember what she
because
said.
it wasn't a
that
big
made-
part of her life. It was just a random
exactly.
conversation to her.
So you never know, like, what it is that you're going to say or do that's going to spark, like, you know, major change for somebody else. I've had that happen with like clients that have come in and said similar things and didn't even realize that they were talking about me.
Yeah.
You know, so like, yeah, you never know.
You never know. It's like those little acts of kindness, you know, that goes a long way, you know. So, you know, try to not focus on the big shiny things and try to just do like lots of little good things. You know what I mean? Like that seems to be, you know what I mean? Like if you just do it all the time, so many good things, you're going to affect so many people in so many ways. And you'll never know, because it's not about that. But one day you'll know, because one day you'll be having this past life review thing and they'll tell you these things and you'll be like, so that's kind of the next thing that you do in the life between lives. And so it's just kind of like a counseling. And then after that, like a lot of times the people will go to, it's funny, there's like these different realms in the afterlife that kind of mimic Earth, you know what I mean? Because like this is like the afterlife, is the ring around Earth, right? So you're not going to some other planet or whatever. You're still earthbound. It's just like another layer. And you'll go to like libraries and stuff. Like the library is a big part of the life between lives, and a lot of times they're described as like very sacred spaces, very quiet, very peaceful, very beautiful. And a lot of times they're described as like Greek or Roman feeling, like big columns, sculptures, white, you know, marble, very, very pristine and kind of heaven-like, you know. But you go there to learn.
Like grand,
grandiose. Huge ceilings, huge columns, and you go there and you can like you can learn about your past lives. You can learn about like anything you want. It's just like a cosmic library, and it's kind of like a little downtime too. So kind of going, and sometimes people describe this part of the life between lives as like a school too. Like they actually go to school and they're like in class with a teacher and stuff. And so there's a part of the life between lives where you go and you start learning and kind of preparing for your next life, and based on your last life, okay, what can I do better, and that kind of stuff. And you're just doing a little research and learning, and maybe a little schoolwork and that kind of stuff, a little homework. And then you go to, a lot of times the people go to a place called the Council of Elders. And this is where it gets kind of crazy, because like what Dr. Michael Newton talks about is that like up until this point, everything is very chill, you know, it's kind of heavenly. It's like, you know, and when they go to the Council of Elders, they always describe like the energy shift, like it gets real serious, and all of a sudden you're like, shit, you know, it's like the big guys here, and it's not God, it's like this a lot of times they describe it as like this like domed room, big grandiose room, and there will be this like half circle of people, beings, whatever, light beings, usually just glowing, sometimes cloaked in like robe type things, but they get the impression that they are very, very divine, very like high up on the hierarchy of beings, over everybody else, and not judgmental, but you can't bullshit them. Like there's no lying there. Like you go in, and so as where it was before, it was about, okay, in your last life, what'd you do good? What can you do better? This is big picture. They're like, we know every single freaking thing you've ever done in this life and in every life ever. We know your trajectory. We, you know, you get the impression that they're like, they see it all. and they're like, their whole goal, their whole job is to keep you on track of what your soul's mission is, right? Not what each individual life is. They're like, okay, let's put it in perspective. And so when you go there, it's all about your soul's mission, like your bigger picture, so that way you can kind of stay the course, and you get the impression that through all this, there is a purpose to all this. There's a reason we do this. This is not just random lives for the sake of having lives. This is in my opinion, like I call it the simulator, that this isn't like a simulator, meaning this is fake. Like this world's very real. I call it a simulator in the sense that our soul uses it in the same way like a pilot uses a flight simulator to become a better pilot. Our soul uses this physical world and these physical lives and everything to level up at a soul level, like, because you can have experiences, right? Like all this stuff we can do here, you can't do in the spirit world. You can't go eat chocolate and experience that. You can't have a family. You can't, know love, true love, because to have true love, you also have to have like hurt and that kind of stuff. You have to have the duality, right? You have to, you don't know hot unless you know cold. You don't know dark unless you know light. So you have to have that duality to really, really know the other thing. So we come to Earth to learn all that, to have this rich experience. So when I say it's a simulator, I don't mean this is fake or virtual reality. I mean that it's not base level reality. Like base level is spirit world. Like that is real. That's real. That's eternal. Like that's not temporary. This, you come in to have these experiences. And, but it's not for nothing. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason, there's a purpose, and there's these higher elevated beings, these ascended masters, these angels, whatever you want to call them, that are monitoring all this and that are making sure that you more or less stay on course. Like we have free will. When you come in here, you can do whatever the hell you want for the most part, but there's people watching, and those people aren't like watching in some weird Big Brother way. They're watching because they're like, hey, like, take this seriously. You know what I mean? Like this isn't a game. You can have fun and stuff, but it's not a game. So when you go to the Council of Elders, and he called it that because multiple different people used that word. But there's other words for it. There's other names for the people and the beings in the room and all that. But so many people describe the same thing: a big room with a big domed ceiling. They would say that the dome ceiling like glowed like light, but it was like semi-transparent, so they could see like space and stuff, but they got the impression that they were in space. So, it's really interesting listening to everyone describe it. And the really cool thing is they always describe the beings as like in a semicircle.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was interesting. So you would be here and they would be like in the semicircle, like looking at you.
Yeah.
And they were loving, incredibly intelligent, but like very no nonsense. And on a side note, Robert Temple, Professor Robert Temple, he wrote the book A New Science of Heaven, and it's all about plasma. So if you watch my interview with Dana Kipple, we go into depth about Robert Temple, and he's the one who inspired her to do what she does, and he's awesome. And he talks about angels because he has a bunch of out-of-body experiences and stuff, right? And he's a professor. He's actually a scholar, and so he talks about this, and he says that angels, it's so funny when he describes them. He says that they are, they're so strange that in the spirit world and in the non-physical, nobody wants to talk to them. No one wants to deal with them because they're so strange, and not like in a strange, he said they're so strange that we can't comprehend them because they're so advanced. They're so, like, we like to think that angels are like humans. Like they're just like us. Why would an angel be like us? It doesn't make any sense. They're so far beyond us that it's like really hard for us to interact with them. Like they come across as extremely strange to us. And I always thought that was funny the way he would talk about them. He would say, "Oh yeah, I met an angel. They are weird. Like you don't want to meet an angel. They're very, very overpowering and very weird." Not like in a negative way, just in a, we can't relate to them.
Yeah.
They're too beyond us. And when these people talk about the Council of Elders, it reminds me of angels because they're not mean. They're just extremely like stern and blunt and kind of like, they don't have the emotions like us. Like we have an emotion. We're humans. We have tons of emotion. So we think about things different. They're just like, boom, this is it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, there's no nonsense, like when I had my higher self meeting, like it was just like,
No BS.
Yeah, they're like, I'm not here to
No
like make you feel
sugarcoating.
good. I'm here
Yeah.
to tell you the truth, you know. And you get the impression from the council of elders, that's how they are. They're there to tell you the truth. They're not there to like, you know, make sure you feel good or to care about your feelings or anything. So it doesn't make them mean at all, because, you know, they're just making sure everything is running correctly, right? So that's the council of elders. I think they're like angels, or I think that they're what we call angels. And it's really interesting. And then after that, people go to probably the most, I don't know, I think interesting part, which is, so typically right after the council of elders, you go back to your soul cluster and your soul group, and then you reconvene and you talk and stuff, right? Like you talk to your group and you kind of figure out your next plan. Like, okay, what are we going to do next time? And then you go to something called the Hall of Destiny. The Hall of Destiny, Michael Newton talks a lot about, writes a whole chapter, a long chapter on the Hall of Destiny, and sometimes called the Ring of Destiny, has a few different names, but they describe it, and so many people describe it the same way. It's freaking nuts, of being this like this either arched room, like almost like a tunnel, like a hallway with like a rounded top.
Yep.
Is how it's described a lot. Sometimes like a big circular room, but it's almost always like an arched room, usually kind of like a cylinder.
Tanks.
Yeah.
Or the tunnels.
The tunnels.
Yeah.
Totally, just like that. And it just like that in the sense that also they'll talk about how around the top of the curved part, it has like these projection screens, you know, not like TVs, just like, it's just like reality is projected. And they even, sometimes people will say that there's like a dial on the wall, and you kind of turn the dial and it cycles through lives, and there's somebody there helping. There's like an attendant or whatever. And the point of the Hall of Destiny is you're picking your next life. And it's like picking like a character in a video game. Like you're like, so they will tell you, okay, that we have 3 lives lined up for you to select from. You know, this is just an example. They'll be like, okay, this guy, he's in Mexico City, you know, blah, blah. This is his family. This is the parents. This girl, she's in, you know, Russia or whatever. These are the parents. And just a reminder, wherever you're born does not mean that's where you're supposed to be. That just means that's where you're born. Okay. As we tell you in human design, you know, I had like 35 human design coaching sessions this month.
Yeah.
So there's a good chance one of y'all watching right now has had a human design reading with me this month. It's been a very busy month. But what we learned in human design is that you select your character, right, based on what it is that you're trying to accomplish in your next life. And there's different types of beings, and they're made in certain ways, meaning that, like, you know, every second of every day, it's like a style, click, 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 and every click, 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 there's a different type of person made, different type. And that way we have this distribution of, you know, humans around Earth, and everything gets done properly. The whole point of all this is that Michael Newton kind of confirms how human design works, because when you go into the Hall of Destiny and you're like, okay, I want to have this next life, based on how you want your next life to be and what kind of life you want, there's a selection of beings that's available, right? They're like, these are the humans that are available for you. And the reason why they're in different parts of the world is just because the way astrology works is that, like, depending on when and where you're born, you're going to be a particular type of person, right?
Absolutely.
So sometimes if you need a particular type of person, like, it's almost like you're shopping for a specific car. You're like, I want a 67 Jaguar. And they're like, there's only one, and it's in Budapest. And you're like, shit, I guess I'm going to Budapest, right? So it's kind of like that. You're like, I need this type of human. And they're like, all right, there's 3 of them available, and here's where they are, right? And sometimes you have to go into that life. And then sometimes you're like, okay, well, I'm born in this place, but I need, like, you were born in Kansas, but you're like, I need to get to Dallas. We had made a pact before that we were going to meet up at a certain point in this life. But you had to select a body that was in Kansas, right? That's why you're born in Kansas. But you didn't spend very much time there, and you got to Dallas. And we got to Dallas, and we're like, okay, now we met up. Now we can go to Florida. It's almost like we had this pre-life plan, but we had to, like, find each other, because you start sometimes in random places that don't make any sense, but just because you just have to get into the game, right? Absolutely. And then once you're in the game, you go to where it is you need to go. You know, so if you're living in a place right now and you're like, this place doesn't resonate with me, it doesn't jive with me at all, there's a chance that that's not where you're supposed to be. Just because that's where you are, just because that's where you're born, doesn't mean that's where you're supposed to be. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you get lucky and you're born in the place you're supposed to be. But
well, and hey, my human design said I'm supposed to be at the coast. So
boom,
here we are.
So in the Hall of Destiny, you you select your body or your character, and you actually get to they say that they get a chance to like hop in and have like a little quick sneak peek and feel the energy of the person. Like, do they resonate with that energy? And you get to kind of test drive it, right? And then they select the being, and then they go into the next life. Now, quick caveat, people will say, okay, then that means that like my next life is predetermined and I have no free will, right? Because I already saw it. The way that Dr. Michael Newton describes this is the same way Robert Monroe describes it, same way Tom Campbell describes it, same way Ishtok Bentov describes it, same way all the greatest minds that have researched this describe it. We have a combination of free will and determinism, right? That means that we did pick a particular body with a particular life trajectory to serve a particular purpose, but we picked it. You picked it.
Yeah.
Your higher self picked it.
Yeah.
Not some random Joe, not the system, not a computer. Yeah. You picked it. So you selected something specifically. So, and because you selected that specific life, there are specific kind of, Robert Monroe calls them signposts. There's these signposts in the life that you're supposed to do, that you're kind of agreeing to. You're like, okay, around this time in this life, I'm going to do blank. Then around this age, I'm going to do blank, right? And that's why in certain times of your life, you'll feel a pull to like do things, go certain places or whatever. That's because there are some pre-conditioned, kind of rule sets to your life. Now, you don't have to do those. Basically, everybody I just mentioned before, all the greats, will say that you do have free will and you can do whatever the hell you want, but you're going to have your higher self kind of throwing a fit at certain times, being like, hey, dude, we chose this together. Like, come on, like you signed up for this. I'm supposed to keep you in line. So listen to me. And that's why your higher self will give you little nudges and synchronicities to kind of guide you. But ultimately, you can just go completely rogue and say, I'm not listening to anyone. And your higher self will throw in the towel and just be like, screw it, have fun. We'll see you when you get back up here. We'll try again next time, right? That does happen. So you have free will in here, but you also have a bit of determinism in the sense that you chose your next life and your trajectory and your character. And sometimes you choose your parents and your, all that kind of stuff. And sometimes you do, choose these things. Like we chose, obviously we blended our lifetimes so that we were going to meet each other and do certain things. And we chose those things.
Yeah.
So you can't say, oh, so my life is scripted. It's like, well, it's kind of scripted, but it's scripted by you, right? So it's not like somebody else scripted it, and you still have the right to rewrite your life if you want, but that's kind of going against your own wishes if you do that. So,
and you'll feel like you're out of alignment.
Totally. Yeah. But you do, I think it's important to let people know that you do have free will. You have free will to do whatever you want. This is not a computer simulation or anything. But that's why it's kind of a combination, like, because like scientists and like physicists and people that like consciousness researchers and stuff will argue over determinism versus free will. That's like actually a big argument in the psychology and parapsychology world, especially the philosophy world, is do we have free will or is it determined, right? Yeah. And I think it's both. And that's really why neither one of them are ever right or wrong, because they'll argue all day long. There's so many really smart people that argue all the time over free will versus determinism. And the reason why those arguments never go anywhere and no one ever wins is because they're both right and they're both wrong. Yeah. So.
Agreed.
Okay. And then that basically takes us to the last chapter of the podcast that I did, which goes into imaginary friends. And basically this is the part that really people really like because it's so unexpected. Okay, so we went through the whole thing. The person, they croak, they go up to the spirit world, they go into their happy place. Then you go into your little council thing with your guide, right? That kind of walks you through your past life. And then you go into your R&R and you learn and all that kind of stuff, yada, yada. Then you go into the council of elders and then you meet with your soul group. And then you go to the hall destiny, you select your next incarnation and you come in, right? Okay. When you come in, what Michael Newton found out, because when he's taking these people in these deep past life regressions, he's connecting to the oversoul, the higher self, right? And so when he's connecting to the oversoul, the higher self, he's like asking them all these detailed questions. And he's like, okay, so how do you, like when the next body's born, how do you integrate in there? Like, are you in there like in the womb and that kind of stuff? And they'll tell him, they're like, well, yeah, kind of, we don't spend too much time in there because it's boring, like literally. But they're like, it's important to like get your energy like meshed, right? It's important to like, especially at an early age, like in that embryonic stage, for the soul to be around there, just to kind of have that energy, familiarity, kind of a thing. But they don't like spend a lot of time in there because it's boring. A soul's not going to sit in there for 9 months, and do nothing, right? But they do spend time in there and make sure there's an integration. But they also kind of play, they just kind of observe and they do all their different things. And then when the baby's born, it's where it gets super interesting. He said that they found out that for the first few years, and not every soul, so the soul gets to determine if it wants to just hop right in and say, okay, from day one, we're fused, we're a thing, or if it wants, like some of the souls, especially souls that have been around for a long time, they are like, I find it's fascinating how they get to choose how they do it. There's not like this rule that says you have to do this. So the soul's like, I find it's best if I integrate slowly over the first few years. Like I don't just fully fuse in there at the very beginning. And
it's almost like warming up the car.
Yeah, for real. And Michael Newton's like, why do you do this? And he said, well, sometimes the body can reject. So like in soul sync, I call it the higher self and the human self. You're a fusion of two things. You're human self, this vehicle, this physical avatar, and then your higher self, the soul. And you fuse, right? So he's confirming all this. Dr. Michael Newton's confirming this by saying, that this is essentially how it works. The soul's like, the body is powerful. The body's ego. The body is all about survival. The body sometimes will be like, what is that, to the soul? Like it's like, that is something that's like foreign, is outside. It's, you know what I mean? And sometimes the body will give it resistance. So the soul feels this. And if there's ever resistance or whatever, so what they do is they befriend the body, right? They'll hang out beside it, right? And through everything. That's why, like, a lot of times parents they'll see in like baby cams and stuff, they'll see spirits around the babies, orbs and stuff. That's the soul. That's the soul hanging out around the baby, just not fully integrated. So as the kid grows up, the kid will, guess what? He'll have an imaginary friend. Like that orb that you see on the baby cam is actually the soul. And the kid will be like, oh, me and my buddy are going to go, play in the yard, right? And you're like, your buddy, I don't see anybody there. That's the soul. And so what the soul does is it becomes its friend, so that at a certain age, it can fully integrate, and the body and everybody accepts it because it's like, oh, of course, you're my friend. Come on in, And then at that point, you're a human freaking being. You are a blend of a higher self and a human self into one. But I think that fusion is a beautiful thing because it doesn't just happen instantaneously. Like the soul has to kind of work. It's like a finesse kind of a thing. It's like you can just force it, but if you want it to be smooth, you kind of have to read the body. And so anyways, it explains imaginary friends. So when your child has an imaginary friend, they're not just making stuff up or have a vivid imagination or whatever. Like there's a very good chance that they're literally just having like this relationship with their soul that just has not fully integrated in their body yet.
So fascinating.
Yeah. And this is backed by Dr. Michael Newton's immense research into this. And this is multiple things. Like this isn't just one person with this experience. You're talking about, he had 7,500, case studies, and so I don't know how many exactly had this kind of experience, but I mean, he wouldn't put the stuff in his books if it wasn't substantial, because he took the stuff very, very seriously.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyways, I just think that that's all like crazy fascinating.
Absolutely.
That's else. So yeah, holy cow. I mean, when you get into reincarnation, people are just like, you think it's this very simple thing. Like, okay, you die and you come back in the next life. And they think it's just pure karma. Like, okay, if you were a bad person in this life, you have to come back and make up for your deeds or whatever. And that is part of it, obviously. But there's so much more to it. Like and this is even scratching the surface. I mean, it's so like the world is so vast. But
Dolores even believed that, like, basically, like you sign contracts and like you do, like, even difficult people, well, specifically like difficult people in your life, that you sign up for that difficult relationship. I had a very difficult relationship with my mother, so like Dolores believed that you make these contracts to have these difficult relationships, to work through that it's a lesson in itself. But sometimes it's just too much for you to handle, and that you can literally like tear up the contract. Like she had like a method of visualizing, like, tearing the contract and like telling the person, hey, we didn't make it this time. It's okay. We will retry this in another life. I set you free. I set me free. We're good, kind of a thing.
More proof that you do have free will ultimately.
Absolutely.
Even if you sign a soul contract, you still ultimately have free will to get out of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, all the people that say this is a prison planet and don't go to the light and all that kind of stuff, and I get it. Like, and I don't want to sit here and like say, okay, all that's wrong or anything, because I don't know. I'm just going off the research, right? But there's a lot of research that suggests that this is not like a trap. And you could make the argument, well, all that is just an elaborate trap, Jordan. And it's like, well, it's a pretty elaborate, all that's very elaborate, right? Because at every turn, what we find out is you have free will. So if this was a huge elaborate trap, then why would there be so many times where you have free will to,
get off?
Like they even talk about in the book, you don't even have to reincarnate. Like you choose, you get the impression on the other side that these people, you're trying, it's like you're in school and you're trying to graduate, right?
Yeah,
so
you're learning things, you're having experiences to like make your higher self like a more
well-rounded.
I mean, like fully developed. You've experienced all the different emotions. You've had the rich life, you've had the poor life, you've had the life full of love, you've had the life full of neglect, like you've had all the different experiences, so you can see things from every point of view, kind of a thing,
And with the goal, I believe, so based on Robert Monroe's teachings, he said that when he was way out, like, so if you don't know Robert Monroe, but I mean, he's pioneer in out of body and consciousness exploration. I mean, he's explored the astral and the out of body more than anybody and further than anybody in history that I'm aware of. And he said that when you're out there and as a human consciousness, but not anywhere near Earth, I mean, you're so far in other dimensions that you're encountering beings that have never even heard of Earth, don't even know what a human is. That he said that when you're a graduate of he called it the human Earth life experience. If you're a graduate of the human Earth life experience and you're way out in the other dimensions of the astral, and you encounter a spirit or an intelligence, and they meet you, that all they want from that point on is to become a graduate of the Earth life experience. He said that it's like, no, it doesn't matter who you meet, doesn't matter, because like you get the impression that the cosmos is full of like ancient intelligences, right? There's so many different intelligences that have nothing to do with Earth or humans, right? Like we're just a speck. Most of them, like I said, have never even heard of Earth or humans, right? But when they meet a graduate of the Earth life experience, they're all of a sudden like, who are you and where the hell did you come from? Like, so the whole point of this is that when you do make it through this and you go through all the lifetimes and all the experiences and you see all this stuff and you learn all your lessons and all of this, this soul, the quality of the soul of that ascended master is so advanced and so well-rounded and so rich that you are a different level. You're a different level. And when you meet these other, intelligences and consciousnesses out there, like there's this kind of, I don't know, like what do you want to call it? Like a little bit of a, like when you meet somebody who's so pure, like when you meet like the Dalai Lama or something like that, right? And you meet a human, you're just like, oh my God, you're on a different level than us, That's the impression I get, that's how other consciousnesses see the ascended human conscious. Not, doesn't mean all of us, we're still here playing the game. We have a long way to go, but
we'll be there one day.
Yeah, but exactly. So when you're a graduate of the Earth life experience, when you finally make it through and you get what's called escape velocity, that's what Robert Monroe called it, and you get escape velocity and you leave and you don't have to come back and reincarnate anymore because you've graduated. Like those,
you've had all the
that council of elders. Yeah, you go up there and you're meeting them and they're like, dude, you did it. You're done. Why are you talking to us? Let's get out of here. You get the impression at that point that you are, I'm not going to say you're quite a creator, like it's not, but I do believe that the creator created all this as almost like a way to create more creators. Like this is like creator school. And you do have these immense creative abilities, like in the astral realm, like everything manifests at like the speed of thought. Like it's totally different. So you are a creator in a way. But I really think that you have options at that point. You can either hang out here and be like a guide, you can be these people that help Earth and that, manage and like all these spirits that seem to be hanging around this place. And Dr. Michael Newton's second book, he goes into that, like and Dolores Cannon wrote several books on the tenders of the garden and the custodians of Earth.
Absolutely.
Those custodians are like they're the ascended masters. They're the human graduates. They're like, so it's just like school. You go to college, when you graduate, you have options. It's like, okay, do you go back in for more learning, right? Get your doctorate or something like that, or do you hang out there and become like a counselor or a professor or a teacher's aide or something, or do you go on and do something else? Do you start your own school, right? I think like we have all those same options, but we go in this incarnation process and loop just to get, same reason you go grade to grade in school. Like you don't go to school for 1 year and like, all right, I did it, I'm done. It's like, no, dude, you got a long way to go. You got to keep learning. And then after you get out of this school, there's another school, another school, another school. And then you can get, like certifications and advanced placement and all this kind of stuff. You're never really done. That's how the impression I get with Earth. It's not that it's like a soul trap. It's just that it's a very, it's a very big learning process. It's not like a quick thing. You know what I mean? We're here to become masters. That's why you come here, is to become a master, not to become, a half-ass consciousness. You know what I mean? Like there's other planets for that. Like you get the impression you come here because what Robert Monroe says is the result is so profound. Like the human Earth life graduate is so advanced that it makes all of this worth it. So you'll look back and you'll be like, all that suffering and pain and confusion and all those lifetimes that didn't make sense and all that stuff. In the end, you'll be like, it's like when you go to like the military, you go to boot camp. Boot camp sucks ass. Like they're torturing you, like, and you're like, why am I doing this? And at the time you're like, this sucks. I'm being tortured. This sucks. I want to quit. But then years later, you can look back and say, I'm a fucking Marine. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff that I did paid off. And that's what we're doing here. I think it's like, it's like the Marines of the spirit world. So
absolutely.
Anywho, that's that, guys. That is reincarnation from our point of view.
Steve asks, can you talk about one's mission? So, I mean, I think that goes along with what you were just discussing, but ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's going to have a different mission depending on what stage you're in. It's kind of like if you look at school, I can't tell you what the point of school is, right? Because everyone kind of has, are you going to art school? Are you going to trade school? Are you going to medical school? You know what I mean? Like school is different depending on the person. Are you in first grade? Are you in 12th grade? Like, so that's how life is. Like everyone's life is going to be totally different. Your set of like missions is going to be totally different depending on, is this your first incarnation or your 1000th incarnation? Are you here for like R&R because your last life was insane and you just want to chill in this one? Or are you here to like, bust ass and get work done? I think everyone's mission is totally different.
So every go around is totally different.
Yeah. So, it's not, cool. But yeah, I mean, that's like everybody wants to know, obviously. I mean, I do, everybody does, like, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? Right. And it's just one of those things where I think purpose is so individualized. Like it's so individualized to that, not only that person, but that sojourn, that lifetime, even that point in their life. Your purpose in your 20s is going to be totally different than your purpose in your 60s.
It is. So, and that's like the number one question that goes in QHHT sessions or in past life regression sessions to the higher self is, what's my life purpose? Am I on track for my life's purpose?
Yeah. And I mean, I think some people have a very like basic purpose, like literally like your purpose in this life can be like, okay, in the last life, I didn't, slow down and smell the roses enough. I lived a fast-paced life. So in the next life, I'm gonna take it easy and I'm gonna practice my gratitude and that kind of stuff. That could literally be your purpose for this life. It's just to slow down, take it easy. And then somebody else might have a purpose for it's like literally like earth changing. Like you could have a purpose that's like, you are here with just an insanely important mission. There's all these celestial beings and higher intelligences that are helping guide you in this kind of stuff. Like you could literally have two humans on earth. One's purpose is to like stop and smell the roses. And the other one's is like, we need you to fight evil, right? Like, absolutely. So there's so many different parts of this reality in this game.
And Joey, I think a lot of times NDEs are kind of to snap you onto your mission. Like if you are off base, it's like your higher self coming through to snap their fingers in your face and say, hey, we got to get on track, or else we're just going to start over.
Yeah, it's kind of like, there's a quote that I always use, and it's, listen to your body when it whispers, so you don't have to hear it scream. And in the spirit world, your higher self is trying to get your attention all the time.
Yeah.
All the time, little subtle nudges and coincidences and synchronicities and stuff, and we just ignore it. And usually when we have NDEs, not all the time, but usually it's because your higher self is just like, dude, I've been trying to get your attention for a long time. You're not listening. The clock is ticking. We have something we have to do. This is, you pushed me to this point. That's why a lot of times NDEs come with this like spiritual awakening, because then you're like, now I get it. Well, the message finally came through,
I thoroughly believe that like this is your purpose, is to help people see things from a different perspective, think in a different way, for you to help people understand complex things in an easier way. And I have always known that's what you were meant to do, but obviously you were not on track when you were drinking. So but if you think about it, like we got rear-ended by that drunk driver and pushed into head-on traffic, and that did not stop us drinking. You know what I mean? We got hit by a drunk driver, and it did not stop us from drinking. That should have been enough of a wake-up call, but it took us another.
We went to the bar afterwards.
Yeah. Need a drink after that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, is like, now looking back, I mean, there was a million ways.
There were
so many exit signs. But yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, a lot of times, your higher self's watching, it's guiding, it's nudging and stuff. And sometimes it has to intervene, because sometimes, we're just bullheaded and stubborn and has to intervene. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, it's crazy. I mean, so I have a double header coming out this week. Okay. And I'm really excited about it. So I'll segue into this. So Dr. Jason Riza Girzani is going to be on Conscious Observers next week. And so a lot of you know who he is. A lot of you don't know who he is. He is one of my favorite people. He was a big part of my awakening process, because he's a philosopher. There's not very many people in the world like him. There's hardly anyone I can think of whose brain works like his. He's one of the smartest people you'll ever see and ever meet. And his new book is all about the afterlife. And he is an incredible person. He's insanely, wickedly smart. And I had like an old school, like kind of just a high level intellectual, philosophical debate / conversation with him for 3 hours. And it's, it's going to be a 2-parter this week, and it's nuts. And a lot of it gets dark, because he's kind of a dark dude. And just because he knows a lot of shit, and it's almost like the more you learn, kind of the darker it gets,
That's why we have to spread the light.
Yeah.
We have to spread the light.
And it's funny, and I wore him down. I was trying to like wear him down with the I mean, I'm not like this toxic peace, love, and light guy. I try to be as balanced as possible, but I also know that like our decisions and stuff affect things. Like, it's a choose your own adventure game, and we're still choosing our adventure. But anyways, so we get into some dark stuff, and we get into some light stuff. We get into past life stuff. We get into afterlife stuff. We get into, like all the other layers to reality, extraterrestrials, Nordics, grays. We get into, the spirit world. We get into, like all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's wild. We cover a lot of stuff. But it's really interesting, because, when you're talking to someone like him, it makes you realize that we see this reality as, like I said, a simulator for consciousness development. We come in here to evolve our consciousness, because we want to become like ascended masters. We want to become creators in the same image of the creator and stuff. But then you realize some people might be hacking the game. Some people might be hijacking the game. Some people might be playing this game with other purposes. All right. And like not everyone is here for that kind of pure learning. It's just like school, like you're in school, like you go to school to learn, right? Not everyone's there to learn. Some people are there to sell drugs. All right. There's bad people. But anyways, you know what I mean? Like school is like, it's full of people. And you know what I mean? Like sometimes teachers are good people and sometimes they're bad. Sometimes you find out the principal's embezzling school funds, right? There's a little bit of everything. So you get the impression that like, even though I laid out all the stuff here in this live stream about, how this place is supposed to be run and the purpose of it and all that. And I really think it was created with good intentions and it is a good school and it's a good simulator. That doesn't mean everybody's using it in the right way. And we're going to get into that with Giorgiani and it's going to be nuts. So if y'all don't know who he is, you're in for a treat. If you do know who he is, buckle up because I've seen all of his shit. And I mean, this one is nuts and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. So be looking for that.
Nothing less.
Yeah. And I mean, it's dense and the dude, like he's such a higher level. Sometimes when you're listening to him, you're just like, it's like, you just have to pause and go and just like Google everything he talked about because you know what I mean? Like he doesn't always break it down because he's so high level. It's almost like, I don't think he can like break it down for the average person. But it's a fun conversation, but yeah, you might have to listen to him a few times to really get it all, but we cover a lot and I'm going to have him back on. We're going to do a whole nother thing down the road. I really want to go into the Atlanteans. We talk about the Atlanteans and it's really a thing that so we're talking about our purpose and that kind of stuff. I feel really, really drawn to Atlantis and to what I think is the return of Atlantis and the link to ancient Atlantis and kind of the remnants, the survivors, and some of these things. I've been chasing this thread that seems to go through time where you can see the fingerprints of the surviving Atlanteans all through these like ancient cultures and civilizations and stuff. And I've been following that and it's very important. I think it's coming back. I mean, these Nordics that we call these Nordic ETs, I don't think they're ETs. I think whether it's fallen angels, Greek gods, Anunnaki, Nordics, they're all the same people, I think. They're future humans or past humans, they're Atlanteans. And there's this link that I've been following, and it was amazing having Giorgiani on, and I wish that we didn't really get to it till the end. I want to have him back on, so we're going to really dive into that. So, hey, somebody watched I was on the Nephilim Death Squad podcast last week, and those dudes are nuts. I mean, they're called the fucking Nephilim Death Squad, but that was a fun one. Yeah, we talked a lot about Three Eye Atlas, and yeah, so if you're interested in that, you can go watch that. We did like 2 hours on Three Eye Atlas. Pretty interesting.
Well, I mean, we were even talking about it a little bit just earlier about even like the timing of us opening our physical space again, lining up with it as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of changes coming. And I think most of it's going to be for the better. But I mean, we go into it with Giorgiani. I mean, we go into these coming changes, the potential, cataclysms and resets and pole shifts and all that stuff. And we talk about it all. People always tell me, they're like, you can talk about dark stuff in a light way. So I tried to keep him on the light side as much as possible, but it reminds me of Star Wars, like the Jedis and the Sith, like I said, Giorgiani, he's an awesome dude. He's such a nice guy too. He really is. He's such a good person, good-hearted person, and he wants the best for humanity. But he just knows that there's a good side and a dark side, and it's like it's almost like sometimes you have to become the dark side to fight the dark side, kind of a thing. It's almost like I see him. He's like, some of the stuff that we're fighting is so powerful and so dark. It's like you kind of have to step into their world to you know what I mean? And I'm over here, I'm like, nah, man, it's all peace and love. And so it's funny, like it's a funny interview. But I think y'all get a kick out of it. So, but yeah, we talk about it all, man. And if you follow me, like I'm not afraid to go into these dark things. Like I try to, this is a dualistic reality here. I mean, there is just as much negative as there is positive. There has to be, that's what keeps the balance. So you can't run from your shadow work. You can't run from evil. You face everything head on. So, I'm definitely not one of those, head in the clouds kind of a people, so I try to spin things as best I can. Like, okay, now that we've done all that, let's focus on the positive, like, you know what I mean? You talk about the negative and you are aware of everything, but don't focus on it, right? You got to focus on the positive. But I'm glad we have people like Giorgiani out there, literally fighting the dark, you know what I mean? Because I think it's very, very necessary. So he is a force for good, and I would not want to be the one he's fighting. So it's going to be an awesome couple episodes. So I look forward to y'all seeing that. And yeah, so we have this Through Atlas thing happening right now, and I mean, it's weird. I've done many videos on it. I just put a new one out on all my things, but you can see it on the new data that just came out that has me thinking. I've been talking about how it's a seed for a long time, right? So 3 months ago, actually over 3 months now, I did my first post where I said, this thing's a seed. It's bringing information, it's bringing genetic material into our solar system, especially when you look at it from an astrological point of view. It's bringing information to our system. We know that. I've done multiple videos on it. And then something hit me yesterday that, and I won't get into it here, just go watch the video. But there's something called metalloproteins, and it's basically like this. It's a combination of metal and biological substances that can make this. It's like a metal core with a biological outer core, and anyways, go watch the video. I won't get into it here because it's dense, but there's something that has me thinking that this isn't a seed, like I've been saying, but I'm looking at it differently now because of how much nickel it's putting off. So it's putting off so much nickel and cyanide, and I really think that it's laying the seeds. It's prebiotics for life, and I've been saying that for a while. My podcast I did on Through Atlas, I said that specifically this is bringing prebiotics in the form of cyanide and the genetic material and the plasma and everything that's putting out, and it's the seeds of life, right? And I firmly believe that. And we really think that life on these planets starts from comets bringing prebiotics in the form of cyanide. So we know that. And now it's putting off so much cyanide, but it's putting off cyanide and nickel and with no iron, which is really weird. And it's putting it off in insane amounts. And it's shooting it from both directions, out the front and the back, like a fire hose. And it's buzzing right by Mars, right? So it's buzzing right by Mars while ejecting insane amounts of nickel and cyanide, which together make these things called metalloproteins. And metalloproteins are a metal core with a biological outer, structure, and it's the seeds of life. It literally creates RNA. It turns inorganic matter into organic matter, and it actually can create the sure, Johnny. So, anyways, long story short, I'm kind of convinced that it's laying the seeds of life on Mars because it went by Mars at such a close, proximity to Mars, which, astronomically, it's insanely close. And it's putting out this field of stuff. Anyway, so long story short, say it's putting the seeds of this metalloproteins on Mars that is actually the seeds of life, but not the seeds of like organic matter, like what we have here, like carbon-based, like what we are, but actually this metal-based organic life. Okay, so say it's laying the seeds of metal-based life on Mars, which is very possible considering what it's putting out. So that by itself is like, okay, whatever, who cares? Well, right now, Elon Musk is, by the end of the decade, wants to have basically a colony of robots on Mars. Like when he goes to Mars, he's colonizing Mars. That's his entire mission. Everything he's doing right now is to colonize Mars. He doesn't want to colonize it with humans. He doesn't like humans. He wants to colonize it with robots. And that's why he's building this army of Optimus robots. So suppose that he takes his robots there, which by that point will be at least sentient. Watch my last episode that I just did on Thursday when I talk about how the next conscious vehicles in the solar system are going to be AI and these humanoid robots. And I lay out exactly why and how. It's going to be it's going to be Optimus. And he's going to take those to Mars. And so say he takes them to Mars and they start creating new life forms on Mars. Well, now we're just, 3i Atlas is laying the seeds for this metal-based organic life I could see that being somehow integrated into this. Like literally these new life forms, these new robots are going to be this like metal-based organic life, right? And the seeds for that could be being laid right now by Threat Atlas. And then if you want to go even weirder with it, that could be down the road, like this organic. I talk about this with Giorgiani. So just to bring this all full circle, we talk about the grays. And I describe to him what I think the grays are after he describes to me what he thinks the grays are. And what I think the grays are kind of mesh with this idea of what could be coming out of Mars. Like literally this fusion of like human genetic biological specimen with robotic AI synthetic, right? Creating this kind of biosynthetic robot thing, right? That looks kind of funky. It's kind of weird, kind of human, kind of not. That could be made on Mars, right? And I know all that shit's weird, and especially after everything we just talked about, but I go into detail in my video about it because I've always been like, what are these grays? Where do they come from? And anyways, so that's kind of where the newest data that came from the Keck Observatory, they released all the spectrometry data and everything of the comet, and seeing what it was releasing and the way it's releasing it and how close it went to Mars and all that, and with what we're about to go to Mars and do, I was like, holy shit, like there could be something there. So anyways, that's where I'm at now with this comet thing. It's bonkers. But if you ask 20 people, you get 20 different answers. No one knows what the hell it is. And now, like literally NASA is shut down. They're not doing anything. No one's paying any attention to it, even though it's probably the biggest.
Coincidentally.
Yeah, it's probably the most important space-based thing we've had in many generations. And, you know, we just happen to have a government shutdown.
Coincidentally.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I think there's something very interesting. And if you watch my interview on the Nephilim Death Squad, we talked about the fact that, so they released this photo the other day, and they said it was a photo of 3 Atlas, and it looked like this cylinder thing. And everyone's like, oh, it's a Tic Tac, you know, we knew it. Well, it wasn't. It was actually a photo of Phobos, the moon of Mars, right? And but it was a long exposure, so it looked long. And anyways, it wasn't even 3 Atlas, it was Phobos. And it caused all this fear, right? Because people were saying it was a spaceship. Okay. Phobos literally means fear in Greek. Okay. Phobos is the Greek word for fear. And Mars is the planet of basically adversity and conflict and war and that kind of stuff, right? So you have Mars, which is a planet of war. You have Phobos, which literally means fear. They accidentally shared a photo of Phobos and said it was 3 Atlas, which sparked fear. Everyone was talking about that it was this mothership or whatever. There's something, I think 3 Atlas, everyone's talking about Earth. I don't think it has anything to do with Earth. I think it's all about Mars. And I went into this on the Nephilim Death Squad. Nephilim Death Squad? Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, all that. Yeah. Or maybe it's just a cosmic snowball flying through the universe doing nothing. It's one of those two things.
It's either a whole big thing or nothing.
Yeah. Anywho, so that's all I got.
That's all you got, huh?
That's all I got. That's it.
All right. Well,
I think we covered a bunch. Hopefully everyone's brains are a little fried and melty.
So yeah, to answer a few questions that I saw pop up, yes, Jordan still is doing human design coaching. You can set up sessions with him on his website. I don't think he has availability until November.
Yeah, October's gone. Still have a decent amount in November.
And if you're interested in a past life regression, it is not technically QHHT, but it is past life regression that I do offer online. You can also find that through Jordan's website as well, or you can contact me directly.
Yep. Yep. And we're doing our first sound bath at our new space on Saturday, and we're going to start doing online sound baths as well. And it's not a traditional sound bath. It's kind of based, it's inspired by Monroe's too. So yes. It's more of like a Monroe style guided.
A little bit of hypnosis blended into it. Yeah. We do, we'll occasionally do some group past life regression as well. And we might even put out some like connecting to your higher self and that kind of stuff through hypnosis.
do a lot of manifestation stuff and healing stuff, and
I was
everyone
able
has
to
a different.
heal my gallbladder
Yeah.
through self-hypnosis.
And definitely
So,
connecting to your higher self and your guides and all that. And everyone has it. Each one will have a different intention,
Theme, yeah.
different theme. But we're gonna start doing those in like a virtual type setting. So because a lot of people can't make it to our studio because we're in a little town in Florida, and if you're not around here, it's kind of hard. But we're gonna
although we
start
do
doing
encourage you to come here because it is a magical place, and we will have some retreats coming soon.
Yeah, for sure.
If you don't know where we live where the Truman Show was filmed. So it is literally living in simulation.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts. Our house is 5 minutes away, and our studio is even closer.
Yeah, really.
It's wild. Like you can literally ride your bike to Truman's house. So it's really cool. And if you're ever in this neck of the woods, definitely come by. We're going to be doing the sound baths right now every other Friday.
Yeah.
But when we get in the season, it'll probably be every Friday. We're gonna have guided meditation classes and everything too. But for everyone online, we're going to be doing these virtual ones too. So it'll be a lot of fun. And so be looking for that. This week, double header with the one and only Jason Reza Georgiani. Super excited about that. So you guys let me know what y'all think about it. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
And if there's anybody else you want to see Jordan interview.
Yeah. I mean, this is only my second interview because this is just typically my show is just me walking and talking.
This show, it's only your second interview.
Well, yeah. I had a previous podcast where I interviewed Sarah, and I'm going to do another interview with her because she has some freaking amazing stories, and y'all need to hear them. So I did one interview with her before about the blue beings.
But we also got to do
Bigfoot.
some Bigfoot stuff.
Yep, we're definitely going to do. So she is definitely going to be one of my next guests. But drop me a comment, a line about who y'all think I should interview. I want to. I don't do a lot of interviews, but it's something I definitely want to make more of a regular thing. I had a lot of fun interviewing Jason, and I want to do more interviews of people that maybe are, I don't know, not your typical,
interviewees.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people that kind of make the rounds, and you see them on all these different podcasts, and they go on one, they go on another, and they all kind of say the same thing, and it's, there's nothing wrong with that, but like I wouldn't mind like having some people that are sort of out of the loop a little bit. Yeah, kind of surprising guest, like badass people with badass knowledge, but maybe not the people that are, all over the place. That's why I thought Jason, he doesn't do a lot of interviews. And when he agreed to come on, I was super stoked because I've been following this dude for years.
Exciting.
And there's literally no one like him. And so I was like, yeah, because he doesn't do a lot. But even though he just did Jesse Michaels, and he went back and he recorded a second round with Jesse Michaels, and he's going back for his either second or third time on Danny Jones. So you'll be seeing him on Joe Rogan soon. That's the next logical place for him. So I was super excited to have him on mine because he doesn't do a lot of these things. He's a prolific author. I mean, he writes books just like crazy. I mean, he writes the most amazing books, and he pumps them out. Like it would take the average person 10 years to write one of these books, and he'll get it done in a year and be on to his next. And
they're not little, like they're like massive books with very tiny print.
I like that he's a prolific author, and he pumps these things out, but because he focuses. So he doesn't do a lot of podcast stuff because he's usually focused on writing. I mean, he's an author first and foremost. He has a Substack, which is really, really good. He puts out a lot of stuff on a Substack. So definitely subscribe to that. But anyways, let me know who you want to see me interview, and I'm going to try to do at least a couple a month of interviews.
Yeah.
Have some fun with it. Anyways, thank you guys for spending your Saturday night with us.
Thank you.
And we'll see y'all on Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Peace.